And welcome everyone here to Full Circle, Florida. I'm Paul Agrone. It's great to be with you this week as we debate, discuss, and dissect the week that was and the week ahead. And we're going to begin with the #1 issue that voters say they care about the most, inflation. It's hitting your kitchen, your gas tank, and soon it's going to be hitting the ballot box. And joining me this week to make sense of it all, local financial professional Celine Pastore from Simple Path Retirement is here. And as always, our political analyst, Dr. Susan MacManus. All right, let's start with the obvious. Are we in a recession? There seems to be disagreement on that basic, I can't even call it a fact because it seems like it's debatable. I mean, Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, says the economy is strong. She also admitted that she underestimated inflation. Jerome Powell, chairman of the Fed, also saying that inflation's impact was underestimated, but 2 straight quarters of negative GDP, that's the technical definition of a recession.
It is the technical definition, but I think it depends on who you ask. If you ask my clients, are we in a recession? They're going to say, yes, I'm very much believing that we're in a recession. I mean, look at the stock market, look at, what's happening in the job market. We're starting to see a big change there. So I do think it does depend on who you ask.
Is this, do politics creep into something as academic or acidic numbers like a recession?
Paul, we're in an election year. Everything is political.
That's why you're here.
But certainly, when you play a semantics game versus what everyday person is feeling, then obviously to them it looks like, so they're arguing about whether we're in a recession or inflation or whatever. Heck yeah, my family's suffering, and every poll is showing it's the #1 issue. Inflation's the #1 issue that's on people's minds.
Well, I guess the equivalent to a heat index when we talk about the weather would be consumer confidence, which fluctuates from time to time. How are consumers feeling about the economy? This Inflation Reduction Act, what is in it? Some experts, including 2 economists who are influential among Democratic leaders, are arguing that this act won't actually reduce inflation, or it's going to be a slow-moving train. What is in this thing?
Everything but the kitchen sink, or maybe including the kitchen sink. It's a multi-billion-dollar bill, in fact closer to $1 trillion. It has 3 big components, so things dealing with energy and the climate, and health care, some prescription drug reductions, costs and so forth, and a 3rd area of taxation. But it's 275 pages long, 725 pages long, let me get it straight. And there's so much in it. To synthesize it, just one piece of it could take an hour.
Well, the prescription drug part that's being sold as a big victory, it actually doesn't take place really until next year. It allows Medicare to negotiate drug prices with Big Pharma, but that's not going to kick in for a while, and even when it does, it's really going to be a slow-moving sort of piece of legislation. Right now, everyone's focused on interest rates. That does have an immediate sort of chilling effect on
Absolutely.
the economy. What is that going to do?
Absolutely. So we're seeing that in a number of different places. I actually purchased a building in late last year. So using an SBA loan, those interest rates are now affecting what that mortgage rate is going to be down the road. So we're seeing a number of places where that's really taking a big impact into people's bottom line. If people were in the process of purchasing a home, now they're not qualifying for that mortgage. Then what do you do? So I don't think we're really seeing the effects right now, but I think in the next 6 to 12 or 18 months, we're going to really start seeing a big impact. How it's going to affect jobs, we're already seeing people cutting back in hiring and so on.
Well, we talk about supply chains. The CHIPS Act is also sort of under this umbrella, where they're investing billions. I think it's like $58 billion in producing computer chips so that we can make cars again here. Shouldn't we have been doing that? Shouldn't we be doing more of that? That seems to really get at the heart of what's clogging up this economy.
But let me tell you, that's the kind of thing that people can get. They know that we weren't able to get parts and so forth, and for their computers or buy new equipment and so forth. The average person gets that. Why? Because that's a single issue. The problem with things like the Inflation Reduction Act is there's so many parts in it, nobody really knows what it stands for. But should we produce chips at home? Well, everybody says, heck yes. And particularly if they're produced outside the United States, bring it home, yes. Will it take a while before it kicks in? Yes, but that's one thing that the public can grasp and get behind.
Are we getting into a window here, especially say after Labor Day, once we hit that fast ramp? We're running up to the midterms. is there a sense for politicians, whether they got an R next to their name or a D next to their name, that I need to prove I'm doing something about the economy? I mean, is this an opportunity maybe for some bipartisan agreement that we got to get something done here?
Absolutely, I think we do. I mean, Susan, I'm sure you agree. At the end of the day, this is a bipartisan issue. People need to be able to pay their bills. I mean, look at what rents have done here in the Tampa Bay area. People are not able to afford their rents. They're getting behind. They're getting evicted. We're starting to see those effects. So absolutely, it's a bipartisan issue.
Does this spill over into other sectors of the economy, or is it too soon to know that yet?
I think it's a little bit too soon to see the absolute effects, but it's absolutely going to be broad-based.
If you're going back home to your constituents and you're saying, I fought the fight in Washington, you've got to be able to prove that you're in front of this. I mean, this could potentially be a big victory, for a needed victory, timely one, for President Biden. Even Republicans, incumbents that are running, they can use it to their advantage, right? To go back and say, we're trying to stop inflation.
But the problem is that when you take the pieces out of it, what may work, for someone back in Arizona, for example, or somebody in Michigan, these are places that are swing states right now, there may be a piece of that bigger bill that is so offensive to the people back home that they can't possibly vote for it. That's the downside of putting so many things that are often okay in one person's district, but not in another.